Everyone, if we could take our seats so we can start the membership meeting of the AAVSO. Good morning. I'm Chris Larson, President of the AAVSO, and I officially declare this spring membership meeting open. Tradition, it's a wonderful thing. We have another tradition here at the AAVSO. We have a login book for the attendees of our AAVSO meeting, so I'm going to be passing this around. And anyone who doesn't get a chance to sign it, we will put it in the back of the room. Gary, I will start you off with passing it and signing it. So we're going to begin with several important reports. We're going to begin with the Secretary's report from Gary Walker, and then Bill Goff is going to be giving us the Treasurer's report.
Good morning. The membership meeting was held on Saturday, November 12th at the Marriott Hotel in Burlington, Mass. The meeting was called to order by President Christine Larson at 9 a.m. Secretary Gary Walker read the minutes from the previous meeting. Bill Goff gave the Treasurer's report. He reported we expect to draw $624K from our investments. Total receipts for the year were expected to be $914K, with disbursements of $918K. Donations for the annual campaign were recorded at $55K. Our investments are invested with TIF and Greystone, was reported by Bill. These two serve only nonprofits. One is very large and one is very small in size. We take 5% of the 5-year backward average of those accounts and use them for operations. Stella mentioned the members and friends who had lost that year: Amelia Belserine, James Aldrich, Ian Middlemist, Robert Mansky, Sergey Tuzzi, Jeff Garrity, and Mercedes Richards. The membership stood for a moment of silence. Stella introduced the staff and thanked them for their efforts. The director's report, which she'll give an updated version of, gave many stats and statistics about the organization, including membership numbers, observations, participation from various countries, etc. She reported 200 papers with AAVSO data were published in 2016. Stella also reported she had been working with Astronomers Without Borders and the Astronomical League for participation. Future meetings with SAS, this meeting, and the fall meeting in Vanderbilt on November 2nd and November 4th were reported. Christine mentioned Jeno Sokolowski, Barbara Harris, Joe Patterson, and Aaron Price as retiring counselors, and thanked them for their years of service on council. Election of new council officers. 2-year terms were elected for Richard Post, Richard Berry. I'm sorry, a 2-year term for Richard Berry, 2 years for Tom Calderwood, 2 years for Mike Joner, 2 years for Katrianne Kohlenberg, 2 years for Greg Sivikoff, and 1 year for Richard Post. We held an awards ceremony. Stella recognized Sebastian Otero for 5 years of service. Observer awards for visual, CCD, PEP, DSLR, solar sunspot operations, and SIDs were given. Also, digitizer awards, special awards for the AAVSO Nova Patrol Group with 113,000 observations were given. She also acknowledged volunteers, 22 of them. Also, a special award for technical infrastructure for Francis Hemsher and Patrick Wills. She acknowledged 25-year and 50-year members in AAVSO. David Levy, 50 years. Jay Miller, 49 years. Doug Welch, 42 years. Ed Lose, 36 years. Ray Berg, 32 years. Jack Davis, 32 years. And Paula Scotty, 25 years. The focus of that meeting was a panel discussion on the role of the AAVSO in the area of multi-wavelength all-sky photometric surveys. Several collaborators were there, potential future collaborators, and interested parties. Mentioned was the need for two-way communication with the observers. The CELT program may be a good model to follow and was explained. We are not going to be out of a job because of the parameter space of the surveys, i.e. the brightness, signal-to-noise ratio, sky coverage, cadence, and filters. Not all of these surveys eliminate all opportunities from AAVSO observers. In fact, many of us believe that there will be more opportunities for observers than ever before. Questions of what we can do to prepare for the onslaught were brought up. David suggested multi-filter observations as an expansion. The test fields will be up and can be observed at the same time as the test satellite observes. They recommended to get specialized, define your science, choose asteroids, CVs, multi-filter, citizen astronomer, spectroscopy, or other. They suggested Z-prime filters for exoplanets. You might have something to say about that. Otherwise. David also said that UGRIZ, i.e. Sloan, is coming, and recommended that Sloan filters will be part of what's important to the professional community. He also said do not use RGB pretty picture filters as they are not particularly useful. Meeting was adjourned at 10:30. Questions? Comments? Okay, I'd like to introduce our treasurer, Bill Goff, who's going to give the treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to, rather than going step by step through a bunch of budget stuff, I want to just give you a little bit of information about where the money comes from and where the money is going during the current fiscal year. And try and make sure it's actually showing up. Dues, we collected about close to $70,000 in the current year. I will point out that this is about 10% of this is actually sustaining members, people that pay twice their normal membership. And so about 6,000 of that is sustaining members, and we appreciate all of you that choose to do that for us, for the organization. Operations, contributions, these are things like CCD school contributions. We always have, not always, but we frequently have money coming in as donations, unrestricted donations. The annual campaign is in that pile of money. About half of it right now, I think, is annual campaign. Temporarily restricted, I list because from the treasurer's side, we have to keep an eye on this separately. Money comes to us frequently that has got a specific purpose or a specific time frame on it. So we break it out in our accounting system as temporarily restricted, because once that purpose has been defined and we're ready to use that purpose, the money becomes unrestricted towards that purpose. So we do carry it separately in the booking system. Grants is 120,000 about. That number is about half what it has been in past years, and the coming year it's going to reduce further. There's some money in there that's coming to us from APAS. There's some money coming to us from a grant involving NOVAs, and so that's what basically that number looks like as of this year. Next year, we're anticipating this number is going to drop. Grant funding is getting very difficult, as many of you know. So total receipts coming to us so far is a number about $254,000. And our endowment withdrawal at this point in time is about $364. So that's about 8 months of withdrawal on what Gary mentioned, $625 for the total year. That is at the 5% rate. Okay, I'm going to talk about disbursements. Where does the money go? Staff cost, as everyone in the room knows, staff cost is always the biggest expense for any organization. Building and utilities, $13,800. General operations, about $21,000. Grant expense. Remember I talked about the money coming into us for grants? Well, some of that gets circulated right back out as grant expense. Some of that is also part of contractors. There's been some realignment in the staffing at headquarters, and we're now more frequently using contractors to do some of the work than we are employees, so that reduces cost. So total disbursements is in the area of $608,000 so far this year. This is kind of at the 8-month level in our fiscal year. So, AAVSO investments, you've heard me talk about this many times. It's still about $12.8 million. It is with professional money managers. First, I'm going to show you TIF. Gary mentioned also, this is the investment fund for foundations. They only serve nonprofits. They have about $5 billion under investment. There's about 25 analysts that work for this company. And I've been asked the question before, so now I put up the chart. It's about 65% equity. And then you can see there's some of its bonds and some of its alternative investments and so on and so forth. So we're about 65% equity with TIF. We have no control over this at TIF. They do all of the choices. They do all of the analysis about what they want to buy, and then they give us ownership in part of their fund. So we only own one thing with TIF, and that's a membership in their fund. Okay, see, I got my timing all out of whack here. Greystone has about the other half of our investments. This is a Morgan Stanley company, and as Gary said, this is like 10 times the size of TIF, a huge company. But this portion of Morgan Stanley, this Greystone, is a subsidiary, and again, they only serve nonprofits. And I tried to show what their asset allocation is, and they're showing about 40% in U.S. equities and about 23% in international equities. And they also have some money in cash and alternative investments. This is an area that Greystone is pretty on top of. They look for those funds and companies out there that have long track records of good return, and they put money, part of our funds, into those funds and corporations. So they call that alternative investments. And frequently, if you look at the reports in detail, they do some great returns with those companies. And again, they only serve nonprofits. This is the investment value for the last 10 years. And you can see that before the big downturn, we were up around 17-something million, and then it's dropped. And so right now, we're flatlining at about 13 million. So this is an area of great concern for all of us. You know, we want to make sure this endowment lasts, and the council is constantly struggling with the balance between the budget to make operations work and whether or not we have a sustainable path on our withdrawal. So, questions, anybody? Yes. Yeah, a lot of things went back up, but they went back up at the 5% level. And so when you take out 5%, yeah, and it's unfair to compare our investment strategy to your own personal one, because you may have individual stocks which may have gone way up, and the stock market is way up. But in the last 5 years, let me go back. In the last 5 years especially, 5% and CPI is about all we can hope for. And in fact, some people are, of course, their crystal balls are no better than mine, but some people say 5% in CPI is about all we can expect. So, so yes, when you're taking out 5%, you're taking out a lot of the gain, much of the gain, especially back in 14. We had a temporary downturn of about 6 months, and we had some emergency funding problems in headquarters. So it took an additional dive just with that downturn in the stock market, plus taking out some additional money for some emergencies. So yeah, this is a real high risk area that we're all very concerned about, because we want to protect this endowment, and yet we need the money for operations. So it's a balancing act that the council struggles with a great deal. Yes.
Sorry, do you do any cash flow forecast going forward with the sum assumed rate of return and inflation rate to see what the future looks like?
Some of that, I haven't done that personally in the last year. I know that the investment committee has taken on a much bigger role in how that gets done, and we hope to see some nice changes in how this money is being used at the investment level.
Do you expect a change in income from the government because of NSF funds or something like that?
Well, as I mentioned briefly, the grant funding has been difficult in the last couple of years, and it's an area that you have to work on, but you might submit 8 or 10 grants and only see action on one of them, so it becomes a pretty intensive process. And we also have to be careful that the grants that we apply for are ones that are more directly relevant to our line of work. You know, there's the grants out there, of course, but you know, if it diverts a lot of our staff attention into work that's not really organization related, then that becomes another juggling act that we have to consider. Yes.
Is there any talk about trying to drop the 5 to 4.5%, or even down to 4%, which is recommended?
The short answer is yes. but it's it's not a simple question to answer, because again, we've got people on staff, we've got work to achieve. The money is not a savings account. It is there for operations. So yes, you're right. We want to see it grow. And yes, in the past, 4% is the number that people focused on. And the current policy is that if we withdraw more than 4%, that we have to have council approval to do so. So the council has to vote on every one of these withdrawals that's in excess of 4%. So 4% is a goal, yes. Yes. We had a discussion about that just 2 days ago. Basically,
yeah. What we did when we selected these two companies is we benchmarked them against 4 or 5 other companies. And with TIF, we knew exactly what they would have done over the last 5 or 10 years, because they have one fund, one number, and it's public. All the others, of course, have backward-looking 2020 vision, so they can pick the stocks that did well, and that has to be a little bit of a bias in their thinking. TIF was the second of all of the ones we looked at. TIF has been very good and was recommended to us by a very, very excellent investor who ran the Harvard endowment. Told me that's where he had his personal funds. And so we chose them, and we also chose Greystone to run the other half. We are considering combining the two into one fund. Looks like we can save about 0.5% in fees by doing that. You have to be very careful about the fee rate because they will tell you what the wealth manager's fee is, and it sounds really good, but then you find out that the funds they're buying, those guys are charging fees that you're paying for. So it's a very mixed bag. So in the end, those numbers don't mean much. What we focus on is the balance. How much money do we have? And how is that doing against the market? How's that doing against, how are the two doing against each other? So they're not high. I mean, they may sound high, but it depends on what they include. So I can talk to you after the meeting about that if you want more exact information.
Gary's in charge of our investment with Kennedy, so he's a little more familiar with some of those details than I am. So.
Actually, I'm the outgoing investment committee chair, and Dick Post is coming in to help. And by the way, there was a plea last night, or a motion thing last night about if you want to become a section leader of AAVSO Net, anybody who has a lot of expertise in investment, we would welcome on the committee. So, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. There we go, we're awake. It's actually a great pleasure to give you another director's report today. You're going to see some things that actually we completed, but we started even last year at the AAVSO, and some information about the AAVSO. But first, I would like to talk and acknowledge some of our members, and actually long-standing members, that we lost this past year. And we have 5 people that we've lost, and we've lost due to age. And these are Mr. Arthur Green. Actually, he was a faculty at Wellesley for 34 years. He was a director of the Warmblik Observatory, and actually he was one of the advocates for dark skies, which we really need in order to do our work. Mr. Gerard Lutz Scott, he's a solar observer, and he managed to reach the 3,500 day level of solar observations back in 2015. And for those who are doing solar observing, you know that it's one observation per clear day. So it takes a lot of time to accumulate 3,500 observations, lots of dedication. This is Mr. Alan Hesley, who has been a visual and PEP observer. He was observing a range of variable stars, and he was very involved with the Mahoning Valley Astronomical Society. Mr. Peter Collins, he gathered more than 19,000 visual observations. And for those of us who are doing visual observing, we know that that takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work being outside in the middle of the night, in the middle of the cold and dark, trying to get observations. He was also part of our NOVA Patrol group back in the time when people were actually looking at constellations for that bright dot that was not there before. And he has four discoveries under his name. So really very important work, trying to discover bright nova, even when they're on the rise. And last but not least, Vera Rubin. How many of you have heard of Vera Rubin? So dark matter, she changed pretty much the way that we're thinking the universe. Vera Rubin was the person who discovered dark matter, and her work actually should have gotten the Nobel Prize, according to some of us. I knew Vera Rubin personally. She was at the office right next door to me when I was at the Carnegie Institution of Washington. And she was coming in the office every single day for the 3 years that I was there. She was past 80 at the time. What can I say about Vera? She was a fantastic person, very warm person as a person, and an excellent scientist, always finding time to talk to us. And she was a fierce advocate for the place of women in astronomy and women in science in general. She got the President's Award, the President National Medal of Science in 1993. And I have a little snippet of one of her quotes. "I'm sorry I know so little. I'm sorry we all know so little. But that's a kind of a fun, isn't it?" It's a very humble person and a very hard worker. Great contribution to science. So I would like to invite you all to stand up for a moment of silence to honor their memory. Thank you. All right, so the mission of the AAVSO, why are we doing what we're doing, is to enable anyone, anywhere to participate in scientific discovery through variable star astronomy. And this is something that we do with you as a community, with staff that are at headquarters, but the main direction, the big picture, is actually provided by our council members. So I would like to acknowledge our council members and present them to you at this meeting. These are our officers. Christine Larsen is our president. Roger Coleman is our first VP. Kevin Marvel is our second VP. No, I do not know how to count. This is first here. Bill Goff is our treasurer, and Gary Walker is the secretary. And at this point, I would like to announce that Bill Goff is actually retiring from council, and thank him for 4 years, more than 4 years of service. So at this point, please acknowledge his service. Bill, thank you very much. I learned a lot working with you. And I'm pretty sure that we will keep him as observer, so he will keep pestering you for targets, looking in the middle of nowhere for nothing, that it hasn't erupted yet. But this is a good opportunity to welcome new people in council and bring in fresh ideas. So I would like to also announce that Bob Stevens is going to be joining us as our new treasurer per council vote these past days. So please welcome Bob with me to council. So, and these are the rest of our council members: Richard Berry, Richard Poss, Catherine Kohlenberg, Joyce Guzik, Tom Calderwood, Greg Sinkvankov, William Stein. Could you please all stand up, those who are here? So with this, I would like to acknowledge everyone. Thank you all for your hard work, and direct the rest of you to them if you have any complaints. So there. At this point, I would also like to remind you that the AAVSO is an equal opportunity organization. We work with members, we work with observers, we work with people from all over the world, and we welcome everyone. But we do have non-harassment, no bullying, no non-discrimination policies, and I would like to invite you to take a look at them. They are on our front page. If you click the link from our front page, you will see all our policies there, including for forum posts, including how to work with students one-on-one, which is a very sensitive issue. And we are welcoming, actually, working with a wider community and a younger community, for that matter. So with that, I would like to start officially my director's report. This is an outline. I'm going to give you a progress report on how we're doing in terms of numbers, observations, members, etc. Today, we're going to be working a lot about student research, how we are introducing observing variable stars to the younger generation. So I would like to tell you a little bit more about what we are doing in order to engage the community and talk on behalf of people who could not be here to present their accomplishments. Some things that we've done we completed actually over the last 4 months in principle, because these are things that we started last year. A little bit of information about the next meeting, the annual campaign, and some final thoughts. And I would like to start with telling you about our members. So this is a almost a decade-long history of how our membership is fluctuating. And actually, even right now, this is up to April for 2017 calendar year. So I will be talking about calendar years as opposed to fiscal years that our treasurer was talking about. So our membership is fluctuating. We have more or less 1,000 members, and actually this number is a little bit up right now. And how does it look like when it comes to old members versus new members? So the red line at the very top is the total membership. The green is old members, and the blue is new members. So it breaks down to, actually we're more than 1,000 members right now, and pretty much it fluctuates from year to year. We're trying to remember to be more diligent, reminding people to renew their membership. So if you haven't renewed your membership, please let me know. And please do that as soon as you can. We do count on membership fees in order to do our work. And yes, I am a member. I'm a sustaining member, just in case you're wondering. Where members come from, and this is where things become extremely interesting. Right now, this year, most of our members come from the US. We have a smaller number from Canada, Australia, UK, Italy, France, etc. And in the other, we have about 40 more countries. So what I'm going to be presenting is pretty much the top 10 at all. So we have members from 50 different countries all over the world. And these members are not necessarily our observers. So when it comes to the distribution of our observers, the picture that emerges is this. We have a 32% of our observers from the US, but then we have a 9% from the UK. So we have a large number from the UK as well. We have a 7% from Spain. We have lots of observers from Spain. Germany, France, Canada, Hungary, Italy, Poland, and Australia. And in the other, there's about 50 different countries. So in principle, we have people from 60 different countries contributing data in the first 4 months of 2017. So this is up to the end of April. So we haven't even started yet. We have people from all over the world contributing. So how does our database look like? What exactly are they doing? Well, they're really, really growing the number of data that we have. Right now, or at the, I think this is 2 weeks ago, more than 33 million data points in the database. And if you consider how this data has been collected, it's really remarkable. And actually, between my last report, which was 6 months ago, and today, we hit 1 million data. So our data is actually, our database is really increasing. The 33rd millionth point was of a carbon star. It was actually entered in our database in, when was that? 2 months ago, about 2 months ago. And it is by Mr. Desfande, D-A-N-D, how about that? Observer code from India, from Pune. So he was observing this star, NSV 1517-7007, with a DSLR camera. So we have lots of observers actually who are submitting DSLR observations to the database, which I found extremely interesting and really cool. So how about data downloads? Who is using? How are our data downloaded? How are they used? This is the information that we have about our data downloads. And the interesting part that I find in this particular plot is that half of our data are being downloaded by our top 10 countries, but there is another there that is downloading the other half. And I'm finding, and again, this is 2017 only, calendar year, right? So again, we have lots of people from the US, 15%, and then Brazil, Japan, UK, Ethiopia. Sure, Chile, China, India, Spain, and Australia. And then we have 30 more countries here at the 51%. So your data is being downloaded by people all over the world for scientific projects, or for their student scientific projects, or for their own scientific projects, which I find fascinating. We are reaching a really large community all over the world. What happens to that data? Well, some people use them for their own analysis. Some people use them for observing runs. Some people use them for just to see how a star is doing. But lots of people are publishing. So one thing that we're doing is tracking publications of that data with time. And we can see the publications are increasing. 2017, we are almost at 100. And again, this is for the first 4 months of this year. Some of that data are APAS data. So there are lots of professional astronomers who are publishing some aspects of APAS. So we are tracking, for our own purposes, we're tracking publications from APAS data separately. But these, at least the last years, do include APAS data there. So from that, I would like to transition to talking a little bit about accomplishments when it comes to student research. And again, you're going to hear more about projects that were conducted this year from people in the morning session. For example, the Spirit telescope, the Spirit group is actually represented by Paul here. So I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm going to tell you about a couple of initiatives that involve the AAVSO. They're doing by people all over the world. And here's one of them. This is Denis Denisenko and his group in Russia. They have a summer student program. They are engaging high school students in principle, middle school and high school students in observing variable stars, either known variable stars that don't have many parameters known, or discovering new variable stars. And every year they are giving them a certificate, and they're actually putting the result of their observations on VSX. So VSX is a place where students can actually publish original results and get credit. So their name is there. So they don't have to write a paper if they don't have enough material. They can actually, though, claim parenthood of a star or discovery of a star through VSX. I was really fortunate to be at the Russian Academy of Sciences last September, so I managed to sign their certificates in person and actually shake their hands and talk to them a little bit about their research. Really bright young people who are very dedicated into starting their own observing program, and most of them are doing visual. So it's really great to be able to talk to them. Here's another project that is happening that in principle we didn't know about, but the PI, Carlos Morales Socorro from Gran Canaria in Spain contacted me about 5 months ago to tell me about the project and what he can do about it. So Carlos is a math teacher, and he is interested in study variable stars, in his words, in order to learn and apply statistics and analysis math concepts with his students. And these are elementary middle school kids. We're talking about really young kids. So he was working with 62 students, and they discovered 2 new variable stars. They got, of course, certificates from the AAVSO, and they're published their results on VSX. And he wants to actually spread his activities towards observing exoplanets, because this is something that he really liked. That was a pilot project for him, a super successful pilot project. He was using our manuals. He was using our material in order to teach in his classroom. And I'm really looking forward to learning more from his experience, because it seems that within a year he perfected his technique on how to actually teach elementary school kids and middle school kids astronomy, or teach them math through astronomy. Of course, you remember from last time that we are working with the International Science Olympiad, Astronomy Olympiad team. They're using our material for the training. This past year, actually, they trained at MIT, and they have to do an observing program as part of the competition. It's a pleasure to actually report that they came back with the first gold medal. So those kids are amazing. They're even recruiting their own peers for the next competition. They're training each other. It's crazy what they do. And they're using our training material for their observing techniques section of the competition. So this is the team here: 1 gold medal, 1 silver medal, and 2 honorary mentions. So I would like to acknowledge them here, and let's actually thank them, although they're not here. And of course, there are lots of teachers who are interested in working with us, and there are lots of people in this room. And again, you're going to hear lots about this kind of projects. But I would like to just mention here, there's a group that is working with me, actually. It's Caroline Oden and her group from the Phillips Academy. They have a 16-inch telescope, and they are actually taking data. She has a research class, and this is a high school, actually, group. So I visit them a couple of times. We talk very frequently. And what they're doing is they're studying variable stars in open star clusters, which is super interesting when it comes to understanding, learning and understanding things about stellar evolution, about the lives of stars, about how stars are born and how they evolve in a cluster configuration, and of course look at pretty light curves and learn all kinds of data analysis techniques. They're using our software, and they are using our training material, our manuals for everything they're doing, and they want to do more on exoplanets. Actually, Caroline and her group is already part of the KEL follow-up collaboration, but they want to be more engaged, as in do some research themselves. So they're wrapping up this one cluster for this year, and they're moving forward with cluster work, exoplanets, etc. So this is only one of the things that we're doing. There are lots of others like that. And that's an example of what you can do in your classroom if you're interested. So in general, what we're doing when it comes to, one of the things that we're doing when it comes to student education is provide material, provide resources for people, and then let the teachers use the resources based on what their interest is, what the classroom interest is, and what the curriculum that they're allowed to develop is. There's different countries, different cultures when it comes to education. 2 years ago, we came together with a group of volunteers, and we put together a very nice webpage about on-student observing projects. You can find there observing projects for one night of data, for several nights of data, for a semester worth of data, and a lot of resources, as in web pages, books, papers, anything that could be relevant to you to get you started with your observing program with your students. We also have a very active forum where we're discussing whatever educators are interested in, or those who are interested in education could be interested in. And actually, between the two of them, we have a really nice resource for you who are interested to start or continue your observing program, and you would like a little bit more direction from us on how to. So this is actually part of what we do. We're training observers. We're training the observers of the future to actually understand how data acquisition goes and what exactly it is that they need to do in order to produce light curves, and actually what on earth that light curve is, and encourage them to become astro-savvy citizens so they can actually analyze their own data, to produce a nice project, and actually design their own project if they want to, select their own variable stars to observe, take an initiative of how they're going to observe it, even improve their own skills as teachers. So again, the AAVSO, one of the core things that the AAVSO is doing is training observers. And as part of that, we're offering choice courses. I know that many of you are taking choice courses or have taken choice courses, so this is the schedule for 2017 alone. Really packed schedule. We're working with our volunteers, actually, to develop this curriculum. And we're really grateful to all the instructors who are putting so much time and so much energy in order to develop those courses. And not only develop those courses and make them happen in a way that would benefit our observers the most. This year we offered some new classes. We are offering some new classes, first of which being on exoplanets. No one is interested in exoplanets, of course, but we said, well, let's try it. That was a joke. Please smile. Thank you. Thank you. Of course, variable star light curves. I mean, some people hear about variable stars. They don't even know what they are. Why would they even want to observe them? Let's tell them what they are. Developing a visual observing program. Actually, I have taken a class like that. It's really fun. Even go out and find blast star, which is a variable. Did you know? CCD photometry part 1 and 2. So we offer those. VFOT, really important if you want to learn how to reduce your data through VFOT, how to use VStar. VStar is extremely powerful for data analysis and actually very easy to use. Every student that I've worked with is using VStar, and I'm learning a lot on how to use it from them. We are offering PEP, accuracy photometry of really bright stars, something that we are very unique at doing at the AAVSO. So Jim Kay is actually teaching that. And coming up, we have VStar with Brad Walter. It's a little bit different. It's not the VStar class that he was offering before. He wanted to actually focus more on statistics and statistical techniques on how to analyze light curves. Very interesting, and actually I'm thinking of taking that. DSLR photometry, Barbara Harris. There are lots of people who are starting with DSLR. And even before we scheduled this course, I had people coming to me and asking me, when will the next DSLR choice course will be? Barbara is an excellent instructor. And again, VFOT. So we heard yesterday about AAVSO.net and image reduction processing. So we're using VFOT for that. So those of you who would like to know what it is and even learn it for your own observing purposes, your own observatories, this is a really good course to take. Other than offering choice courses, so different people learn different ways. Choice courses is one way where you are getting instruction, you're getting dialogue with your instructor, and you're completing a specific way, a specific type of material. Our manuals is another one. And with our manuals, or through our manuals, we can reach actually people all over the world. We can make them available. But, you know, for some people, we need to actually speak their own language. A language barrier can be a problem for them to even get started with their program. And we are an international organization, so we need to reach, well, anyone, anywhere. So one of the ways that we're doing it is we're trying to find volunteers from different countries whose English is actually really good to translate those manuals in different languages. And we completed actually 3 different manuals, actually 4, this past 6 months. This is the visual manuals in German and in Polish. And this is the CCD manual in French. Not only that, we found a volunteer that came out of nowhere for the 10-star tutorial to be translated in Arabic. So now we have a 10-star tutorial in Arabic. This is actually the 6th different language that the 10-star tutorial is presented. And for those who don't remember, a 10-star tutorial is just a basic how to look at different constellations, bright constellations in the sky, and identify variable stars, and how to build a light curve just observing that. It can't be the first step for people to observe. So we have that. We have a pet guide now, thanks to Tom Calderwood. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. This is awesome. So we have a very, very concise and very well-written manual on PEP observing. And for the first time also, we have a solar observing guide. This is a how to do solar observing safely. So step number 1, do not look directly at the sun. Step number 2, do not look directly at the sun with your binoculars. Step number 3, just don't look directly at the sun unless if you have a filter. So this is something that people can use, especially educators can use for their students. Why the sun? Because it's available during daytime. So you're not asking a whole bunch of 12-year-olds to be in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere at nighttime. So this is a very nice, actually, outreach manual for us, and of course for seasoned observers or beginners for solar observing on how to observe. By the way, did you know there's a solar eclipse coming up? Yay. Maybe not. So we have a webpage actually that is providing resources for you for that solar eclipse. It's a really fun webpage that Owen took from headquarters, put together, and it actually has a very nice feature for one of our great solar observers, Jessica Johnson. So I would encourage you to go there. what are you going to find? Well, other than our manual, you're going to find a very nice movie that shows it's a simulation on how the sun actually goes crossing pretty much the US. We have some really nice apps for your observing pleasure that were actually donated in principle. They're free to download on your phone. And actually, did you know that there's going to be a traffic jam during eclipse, the solar eclipse? Anyone who's not expecting that? So we have this nice map and this nice information about the traffic jam was provided from Google. I put it on our Facebook page, and the Facebook page exploded, which I found super interesting. So, by the way, we have a Facebook page. Please join us. So, resources for you if you're looking for a one-stop shop on what is around there, who is publishing what about solar eclipse. We have resources from the American Astronomical Society, from NASA, from the Astronomical League, from all our partners. So this is for you. You can even access it from our front web page. It's one of the panels that are rotating. So one of the things that we're working on with our volunteers very actively is refresh our observing sections. And observing sections are places where you can find information on different variable stars of interest and learn a little bit more from people who are observing or are working on those stars, get information on the peculiarities of the peculiar stars, get even some information on how to observe different stars. So we have, right now we have 8 different observing sections, and we've been working with the leaders to refresh and renew information. If you would like to be involved in any of them, please do let me know, actually. The more the merrier. We're actually asking seasoned observers or even those who know and they like a specific type of variable star to be more involved with us. So do let me know. And one of the new ones that we have created is on accreting stellar remnants, cataclysmic variables. And this is something that we're working with, actually, with Greg Sivangov, who is one of our council members, to provide new information, including some resources. So CBA is there, and its information. Another project that we completed was a new light curve generator. And actually, I have a very nice poster in the room right next door talking about all the details. But the light curve generator is a quick lookup of a light curve, in principle. And we developed at the AAVSO version number 1, let's say, some years ago. It turns out to be one of our very, very popular projects, exactly because people who want to plan an observing run and would like to know what kind of behavior their star of interest has at any time, they go to the light curve generator. People who are interested just to see what their favorite star is doing, they go to the light curve generator. People who want to see what data exists so that they will download, and they go to the light curve generator. So the new version that was actually developed with a volunteer has that functionality and a little bit more, just to adjust it in the era of now. And this little bit more allows for pretty much showcasing all the filters that are available, so you can select or deselect the filters you're not interested in, or just focus on the filters you are interested in for any light curve. You can go here and define the different parameters, as in the time period you're interested in for your star. You can zoom in and out, so you can just get a box around the light curve and just zoom in and out of that light curve part. You can see who is observing, who has observed your star, and actually select and deselect the observer of your preference if you want to see the data for a specific person. I sort of cheated, and in the poster I put a light curve of the star where I have taken data on, so you can actually see my data in there. But this is something a little bit more interactive, and this also allows connecting this our database, or data from our database, with different databases. So one of the directions that we're taking, working with Arnie actually, is at some point to connect the APAS data with this. So you will see if your star has APAS data as well, and you will be able to go there and download them. So there are lots of databases like that all over the world that we can connect with. So this is something that we are enabling here. And actually, this light curve generator enables pointing to times where spectra are available, but they're not yet, so I'm going to leave it there. Another thing we really worked on was to find the member tool. And this was a project we started and completed in late 2015. And this is something that actually came from the community. People were asking us, you know, I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Do I have anyone that is an AAVSO member around me? I live in Bloomington, Indiana. Are there any observers around me? I would like to actually grab a cup of coffee with somebody when I'm traveling in Nashville, Tennessee. Is there any observer around me? So this prompted into building this tool. And this actually gets you people from a specific vicinity, a specific radius that you're specifying. It can be your hometown, or it can be a hometown, a town that you're visiting. And you see who is around you, or around that particular specific area, and you are able to connect with them through our web pages. So we're not releasing any personal information here or anybody's email. What we're doing is actually trying to connect people who want to be connected. So of course you can opt out if you want to, but a new feature that we added working with Phil Mano is actually you can identify people by username, observer code, or last name. So you can find people, if you want to know who your ABC observer is, and you want to contact them because you saw a fantastic Lightroom, you want to do a similar work, or you are doing a similar work, you can find them through here and contact them through our web pages. Again, secure web page contact. And last but not least, last year, in beginning of 2016, our then past president, Jenna Sokolowski, got a grant from the Research Corporation for Science Advancement to create a tool, to develop a tool that would give feedback to observers of what stars are in need of observing. This was prompted again from our community. We do receive phone calls at headquarters almost every day of people asking us, okay, so what should I observe tonight? And the answer is actually, well, what are you interested in? Where are you? What are you observing with? And actually, the answer usually is that, I don't know, 25,000 variable stars in our database. So, and there are lots of people actually who have we have the preferred program, but they may have a gap in their observing night. So you don't want to waste telescope time because you don't have a target that is placed nicely between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So this tool was actually created with that in mind, to provide feedback to observers on what targets are available and provide feedback to observers of what targets are in need of observing. I have to acknowledge the team that was working with us. Jenna provided some funding for staff to be engaged in this project, but Kevin Statsun from Vanderbilt University provided his developer. So this is volunteer time. This is actually based on grants and based on donations. We worked very hard with observing section leaders as well to get more information about variable stars. No one at headquarters is an expert on everything, so we are relying on people who actually observe and know about those variable stars to give us advice on how to, what the peculiarities of those stars are. And we finally created this. So what does it do for you? First, you get target information, where the target is, what kind of star it is, and actually all this information comes from VSX. So it's, you can click on any target of your interest and you go to the VSX entry for that star. You get the constellation, you get the minimum, maximum magnitude, you get the variable star type, what filter is desired for the target to be observed if we have a filter definition, actually what modes we would like you to observe, so that goes from photometry to spectroscopy. Some stars actually are much more appropriate for PEP or visual. You get an observing cadence, and this is only an advice of how frequently we would like this target to be observed so that we can secure long-term light curves. If you want to observe every single star, every single night, for 3 hours in a row per star, please do so. This is only advisory. But based on that cadence, we have flags here. You get a green, a red, a yellow, and a black flag. Actually, the black flag tells you whether the star is behind the sun or not, or whether you can see it or not, so whether you want to include it in your program. The red flag tells you that the star has not been observed within a cadence. So if the cadence is set up to a week and the star has not been observed for a month, then a flag is red. Once this star is being observed and somebody submits data in the database, the flag turns to green. So pretty much this is a tool that would best work if we work with you, the observers. When you submit your data, then you're actually controlling the flag. You're telling people that, you know, I've taken care of this star, please go observe something else. The yellow flag is actually pretty much giving us a heads up when the cadence sort of approaching. So if the cadence is a week and nobody has submitted data for 5, 6 days, pushing a week, the flag will switch to orange so that they would tell you, you know something, if you have a couple of hours for the next couple of nights, please just put it on your schedule and observe that particular star. You also get, so this is what we're getting when targets were observed last. The little triangle that you see here corresponds to alerts. So this is a heads up, somebody asked for data on this particular star because it exploded, it rotated, it did something really weird from the professional community. So please put this as a higher priority in your schedule. Again, if you have a 2-hour interval in the middle of your observing night and you're looking for a target to actually observe, this could be a really nice place to start. You can register and define your telescope site. So we can, based on the latitude and longitude that you can define as a registered user, we can tell you what targets are visible from your site. We can tell you actually when it's twilight, morning and evening, so you can know when you start and when you end your observing. And the little letters here that you don't see correspond to different observing sections. So if you are interested only in LPVs and you want to observe only long period variables, you can actually get only long period variables here. If you're interested in cataclysmics only and that's all you want, you can get only cataclysmics here. If you're interested in a medley of objects and all you care about is whether I can see the star and whether I can actually reach it based on my scope, you can get a medley here. We have notes here, a notes section, and that notes section, if it's an alert, it gives you a link to the relevant alert. And if it's an exoplanet or an eclipsing binary that has an ephemeris, it gives you the ephemeris when the object is going through a transit, so that you will know what is the preferred time to observe that. As I said, this is a tool that was developed for the community to be used. It's for you to optimize your telescope time. And the best way for us to use it is through our observing sections. So each observing section has a nice little button here that if you click, you go to the relevant observing list. So again, if you're interested in cataclysmic variables, you can go to the observing section that says CVs. That observing section will tell you all the information about cataclysmics, what they are, how they behave, what the different types are, how you should be observing them, what even the different modes of observing of a CV is. You can get a lot of information by taking a time series of 5 hours, but you can get a lot of information by taking 1 point every 5 days for 5 years in a row for cataclysmics. And then from there, you can go to the relevant target list and start your observing program. So everything that we're doing here is again, for you. And one of the things that we were actually scratching our head at doing in the organization that loves acronyms is try to find an acronym for this tool. Didn't work out very well, but here's my preference. Do I have any Star Wars fans here? Oh, come on. Do I have any Star Okay. All right, so we refer to it as ATAT. Thank you, Greg, for the suggestion. That was fantastic. So we have our own ATAT at the AAVSO now. So again, everything that we're doing, everything that you see here, and many, many more, have to do with us serving you, our community, making sure you get the training material in front of you, making sure you optimize your observing schedule, making sure you observe targets that are really hot, really cool, really exciting, making sure that the targets that you like, get the information that they need for you to actually provide the best information that you can to the community that will need the data. Making sure we're building a legacy. That is what the AAVSO is about. But we can't do that without your support. So we have an annual campaign right now. The fundraising committee, the target for the annual campaign is $40,000 this year, and we started a month ago. So the fundraising committee has already secured $15K from matching funds, and we can take advantage of it if we actually manage to get the rest of the money, at least up to $15K. So right now we're at $10,000. So what I was thinking is that we're 100 people in this room. If we get $50 from each of 100 people, we can reach our target here and now and today. So think about it that way. It's actually a really good way of thinking about it. It's $50. So with that, and actually it gets even better. Our second VP promised that he will fund the CUP Club, Citizen Astronomer Promoters. So anyone who donates at the $250 level, we get a really nice cap that says Citizen Astronomer Promoters with a design to be determined, Kevin, right? So we haven't defined the design yet. But if you want a preview of how you will look like, it will be more or less like that. Or a more elegant version of that. But, yeah. I need a different color, Kev. It can't be white. All right, so something different than that. But please consider it. And we really appreciate your donations at any level, for that matter. But this is something that we're really excited by. First month and we're reaching our goal, and it's really cool. And this is one way that you can actually help us help you, help us be more active in providing you the services that you're doing. You heard about our financial hurdle, so from one point on, this is you supporting us. I would also like to remind you that you can actually support us while you're shopping with no cost to you. So there's Amazon Smile out there. How many of you are familiar with Amazon Smile? I shop on Amazon, especially when it's snowing outside. This is 50% of the time in Boston. So if you go on our webpage and you click this button, Donate with Amazon Smile, the AAVSO is one of the supporting associations, non-profits that Amazon Smile supports. So 5% of what you're spending comes back to us. So something that you're already doing can happen actually through Amazon, can come back to us. I shop a lot, let me put it this way. So there's lots of money coming back. So from there, I would like to announce our next meeting. This is going to happen in Nashville, Tennessee, which is one of actually it's on the way of the solar eclipse. And the title of this meeting, the theme of this meeting here is Stellar Transits, from eclipsing binaries to exoplanets. It's a very nice unifying theme for the simple reason that what we know as exoplanet transit is pretty much a rock eclipsing a star. So something that our community has been doing for more than 100 years, observing and studying eclipses, stellar eclipses, is actually applied now for exoplanet transits. So we would like to celebrate that. We would like to actually introduce more manuscripts, presentations to that meeting that is actually talking about different techniques, different objects that are being observed with this method. And we have already secured 4 keynote speakers. We have Christine Larsen, our president. She will be the outgoing president at the time, past president. But she will actually talk about the sun and the solar eclipse. Nicole Colon from NASA, Dennis Conti, our exoplanet section chair, and Kevin Statsun from Vanderbilt. So join us, bring your papers with you. It's going to be a really exciting meeting, really pumped up about it. And let's all learn how the technique of observing eclipsing binaries evolved in order to actually become a transit method now for exoplanets. I talked for a long time, so at this point I would like to leave you with just one final thought. For some reason, quite recently, I was reading the history of the AAVSO, and I was looking in an archive, and I found some talks that Janet Matty gave back in the days when we were celebrating the 75th anniversary of the AAVSO. And this particular part really touched me. What she says here is the observers are the heart of the AAVSO. It is the dedication, the tireless efforts, and the valuable contributions of our observers that give the AAVSO its high reputation in the astronomical community. In this 75th anniversary year and always, we salute our observers. I would like to echo that. Our observers are the heart of the AAVSO. Without you, our observers, we would not be able to offer this fantastic database for science, this great record of observation that is actually a legacy for the professional astronomical community. When you're looking at the light curve now of a variable object, you wonder, is it doing the same, has it always been doing the same thing? And you come to the AAVSO in order to get the answer. And the answer is, well, for the last 100 years, it's been doing blah. But we need 100 more years to even understand a tiny little bit of its information. We will never become obsolete. We will never become, we will never be scooped from a survey. We are necessary now more than ever. And that is thanks to your hard work and your support of the AAVSO through your membership and through your contributions. So with that, I would like to thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing for the AAVSO, for all of those who are volunteering their time and the expertise, the data, money, even a smile, even actually a pat in the back, saying, you know, good job, we need more of that. And of course, feedback of whether what we're doing is what you need. We're not in a bubble. We're part of our community. We're part of who you are. So we thank you for that. We welcome more of interactions. We welcome more dialogue and feedback. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you tell me that something doesn't work or something doesn't work for you. Or we need to go to a different direction. And with that, let's strengthen our community. Let's invite more young people. Let's diversify our community. We can all speak the same language, and that is variable star light curves. Thank you very much. Any questions? Could you please speak in the microphone? Please repeat.
How you handle repeated, where you get a night's worth of, say, 1,000 observations on one object. Are those counted as 1,000 observations, or is there some way you scale that counting?
So the question has to do whether we welcome time series or not.
I'm sorry, yeah. If somebody submits a time series, is that one observation, is that 10 observations, or is that 1,000 observations?
Well, if the time series consists of 1,000 points, then it's 1,000 observations, and we do welcome them at the AAVSO.
Okay.
We are, for specific stars, again, we go back to what the star's needs are, right? For specific stars, we recommend one observation. So, for example, if you have a Myra variable that is doing something useful within 3 years, if you observe it, if you take 1,000 points within a night, you will not get more information than if you get 1 point. Right. I think the most important part is to actually get correct data to make sure that the signal-to-noise of each of your observations is adequate to capture the behavior of a star at the time. So we do welcome time series. Actually, there are some stars that are changing in time periods of hours, right?
I just remember, 50 years ago, that was an issue, that people would send in tremendous time series of data, and there was some discussion about scaling the credit of the number of observations. At this point, that's not true, right?
Correct. 50 years ago, we were not doing CCD, right? Here's another.
I'm not concerned about the credits, but I am concerned about collecting the data. So I plan on doing transits for the next 10, 15 years with tests going up. Are we going to be set up so that we can submit that data and be useful? Because I think that's going to be incredibly useful, and I think one of the major areas where our organization is going to make a real input in the next couple of years.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So the short answer is yes. We're working very closely with Dennis Conti. He's driving the project. It's fantastic. And with another volunteer, Jack. Gleason, thank you. Jack Gleason from the UK, who is actually developing an exoplanet database for dedicated exoplanet transit data. You heard Jesse's talk 2 days ago. Tess is really excited having this community to observe exoplanet transits. There are not enough observers, not only from the professional community, even from our community, to cover what Tess wants to do. So they have to scale down a little bit. But we are essential for what they want to do, especially if they're going to be making a grand statement about, we found the next exo-Earth around the star right next to us in the habitable zone. Having said that, they do have their own database, and they will connect their database with ours so that people who go there and get information on exoplanets, data they were taking from tests or from ground-based facilities, as in spectroscopy, for example, will be able to click and come to our database to get likers from this community. We have to remember that although we really love supporting this kind of projects, we love supporting key missions. I mean, we have been supporting the Hubble Space Telescope for years, Chandra, Swift, you name it. Anything that is flying out there that is looking at something that is transient, variable, you guys have been part of the project. We are not building something just for TESS. TESS is just the beginning. We're building a legacy project. We're building something that is really long-lived. We would like that data to be used for people 30 years from now, 100 years from now. We're building long-term likers of transits. You will be able to do really cool science if you have transits of the same exoplanet around its star and see whether it's there's like a decrease, for example, in the period of the planet. Perhaps it's spiraling in the star, or something is changing. I don't even know what kind of science people will be doing with exoplanet transits in 30 years from now. We don't know that, but we're trying to actually think ahead and build something that's a legacy project. So that's a very long version of the answer to your question, but the answer is pretty much yes.
Hi, Stella. I have not been a member for the last 30 years. I just joined. I'm one of your 62 new members again. And it's really changed. You know, we are at a real historic moment, because as astronomers, we're seeing new things, and now citizen astronomy has become almost as important as it was 200 years ago with Herschel and the rest of them. One of the questions I want to ask, and related to that, is there anyone in the group that you know of, or anyone here that is interested perhaps in communicating and developing a choice program that would help all of us put together a spectral choice online program that would give us what we need? Because at this point, we don't have it, but I think we could get it if we make a formal, opportunity to find out who's interested.
The short answer is yes. Spectroscopy is a direction we're taking, exactly because all the projects that we're working on, we're working with volunteers, so we don't have a timeline for them. That is why I don't want to promise anything before it's completed. Once we are ready to archive spectra, we will be ready to train our observers as well, because training someone is, again, what we do. And we need to make sure that those who are interested in taking spectra are taking it the right way. So the spectra are of quality that our colleagues need in order to do research. So the answer is yes. We will be offering a choice course at some point.
I guess the simple question is there a place that I may go to offer my help? And all of us, as you just said, we're all too busy to do it as, quote, professionals, because we have real jobs. But on the other hand, as citizen scientists, if we had several of us working together, I'd just like to know, where can I go to help?
AAVSO at AAVSO.org.
Okay, and then they'll direct us to a group of people that want to develop an online course.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be great.
Absolutely. Actually, for anything that you might need, this is our email address. Most of those emails come back to me, and I do answer. So if you'd like to offer help, if you'd like to help us even develop, if you have any feedback for us, which we really welcome, aavso@aavso.org, please feel free to send us an email. Thank you for bringing that up, actually, it's great. More questions for me for now? I mean, I'll be here all day, so if you have any questions, any comments, come talk to me. All right, if there are no more questions, we will continue with our morning session, but I would like to make an announcement before that. You know, the biggest nightmare that we have at the AAVSO is when crazy stars do crazy things on a Friday evening. So a crazy star did something really crazy last night, and I found out when I checked my Facebook feed. How many of you have heard about Tabby Star? It started dipping people yesterday. So Tabby sent me a message through social media saying that, oh, it's dropped 2%. Can you issue an alert? I'm like, East Coast time, no one's in the office right now, but it doesn't really mean, and some of my most prolific observers are at a conference, Stupid Star. So if you're looking for a target for your observing program tonight, this is one I would like you to consider. It is at about 13 magnitude, and it has already dipped by 2%. We have no idea how deep it's going to go. We have no idea whether it's still doing that tonight. We have no idea what it's doing pretty much. It maybe just has recovered. You will find a lot of information on AAVSO Alert 579. We have issued alerts on this star multiple times exactly because it's been doing multiple crazy things. But please, 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 please consider that. That is a live alert to the community. It's very well positioned. It's in Cygnus, so it should be, yes.
My observatory superintendent and I had offered an informal gathering like we did 5 years ago in Big Bear, where I wrote just a note on the door, said, you guys want to get together for Spectra at lunch? Well, we were going to have a get-together tonight out here. As soon as we find a place, and set up a couple of our scopes remotely on laptops. So if somebody wanted to do an observation tonight, we've got 17.5 planeways that you could run on the laptop, and we'll be the engineers. You guys can gather the data. And we were going to do it, so now we have something we can do. We'll go look for Tabby Star. So if anybody wants to do it, just check with my superintendent, Preston. Put your name down, and you know, those of you guys interested, we can stand around and have a little fun online right here with a cup of coffee.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so at this point, I would like to ask George Silvis to come up. We have a couple of other business items in our agenda. George, where's George? Hey. All right.
Well, greetings. Thank you for letting me make this announcement. I've been kind of Mr. Transform for a little while. A couple years ago, we really wanted to start pushing, getting everybody to transform data, that being the next step of improving our data quality, making it more relevant to the professionals. So it's become our custom every March when our favorite calibration field comes up on the meridian in the evening sky, we declare a transform campaign. And this year, a couple of people have volunteered, well, let's put some even more incentive in it. Not that just doing good science is not incentive enough, but we have a cash prize. So the rules of the competition or the campaign were submit in the forum a fresh set of coefficients, the transform coefficients. So use the tool put together by Gordon Meyer, develop your coefficients. And the second part of it was you actually had to use them. So you had to observe 10 stars and submit your data before the deadline of the end of the month of May. So we actually got some pretty good contributions. Some 20 people submitted their coefficients. And actually 7 people got enough data submitted by the deadline. So we've 7 people were candidates to win the prize. And the envelope, please. Oh, that's the button there. The winner is Sean Dvorak. I don't think Sean's here, but he will have win the $500 prize and be able to buy a spectrograph or that extra eyepiece or whatever. But anything to help him continue observing. But anyway, congratulations, Sean.
Thank you very much, George. And with that, I would like to actually point out that transformed observation is really essential. So thank you to all who participated in this campaign. It was really fun. It was certainly fun. And thank you to George Silvis and Tom Calderwood, who was really, really engaged with this campaign. So with that, I would like to change gears for a little bit and invite, actually, David. Let's talk. Oh. So now you know what's in my calendar. And let's talk a little bit about, go away. Let's go away. Upcoming meetings. Cool.
Thanks, Stella, for giving me time at your meeting to say a little bit about a meeting that's coming up next July. We've decided it's time. We had another joint meeting between the AAVSO and the BAA. In 2008, there was a meeting at Cambridge. It was very successful. Next year, 2018, will be the 10th anniversary of that. So we're going to hold a joint meeting at the University of Warwick campus in the UK. This is a provisional program we have at the moment. We would normally, as a BAA, be holding a summer meeting around this time of year. So what we're going to do is hold the 2 meetings effectively concurrently. This is our provisional program. On the Friday, the AAVSO will have a council meeting. On the Saturday, the 2 groups will come together. We'll have a plenary talk at the beginning, and then break into 2 parallel sessions. One on variable stars, the sort of things that you guys are interested in talking about. And also the BA summer meeting will run in parallel with that. That's generally a meeting with a variety of talks about interesting astronomical topics, observing projects. We often get professional astronomers to come along and talk at that meeting as well. That will run through the day with breaks for refreshments and lunch. We'll have a plenary session at the end where we all come together. That will probably be a talk of specifically around variable stars, and a conference dinner to finish the day off. Then on the Sunday, this is the 8th of July, the morning will be another variable star session, and in the afternoon, the AAVSO members meeting, the same meeting we're having here today. The reason we're having it at Warwick, on the Warwick campus, is there's a very active astronomical research group at Warwick. Many of you may have heard of some of the people. Those are the senior faculty I've listed there, but the photos are of the people in there who are very active in particular CVs, variable star astronomy, and more recently exoplanets, people like Tom Marsh, Boris Gansika, Danny Steegs, Don Polacco, and Pierre Tremblay and Peter Wheatley. Names many of you may have seen or collaborated with professionally. They are based at Warwick, and we hope many of them will be able to be involved in the meeting. Just for the sake of giving you a bit of location information, this is the Warwick University campus, a little bit greener than the country around here. The meeting will be in one of the main lecture buildings on campus, and accommodation will be at a student dormitory, student hall of residence on the campus within easy walking distance. So it'll be a convenient location to have a meeting. The lectures will be in one of the main lecture theatre complexes in the science departments on campus. If we just zoom in into that little bit of the building, we have a concourse area where we'll have displays, refreshments, that sort of thing. A number of breakout rooms where council meetings and other things can take place. And then the use of 3 lecture theatres, one a large one and 2 smaller ones. That's the the top left picture is the larger lecture theatre, which will certainly be big enough for the plenary session of both groups together, and two smaller lecture theatres that will hold 100 people for one of the sessions during the day. Accommodation is in good quality student rooms. The reason we're having it on this weekend is it's the first free weekend after the end of university term. So students will have left the campus. We can use their halls of residence. They all now are quite high standard. They all have ensuite bathrooms, single bedded rooms. Just if you're interested in other things you might be doing when you come to the UK, there are a few other extracurricular activities. If you want to make a holiday out of this, there's lots of things you can do. We're very close to Stratford-upon-Avon, which is where the Shakespeare Theatre is. The theatres there shown on the bottom. It's all been refurbished inside, rather along the lines of the original Globe Theatre. It's a fascinating theatre to be in. There will be productions. At this stage, we don't know what's going to be on. You can book online when the time comes. But Stratford is a very attractive village to visit, or town really to visit. But also, if you're interested in a bit of history, there's a very nice 14th century castle in Warwick. And Warwick itself has some interesting old buildings, so it's be an interesting place to visit. It's very close to the campus. There's a good bus service. And if you like your history a little older, there are a few 5,000-year-old places to visit. Stonehenge, which certainly has astronomical connections, much debated historically. Silbury Hill is the largest man-made structure in Europe, earthwork structure. Nobody knows why it was built. There's been a lot of investigation of it. Lower right there is Avebury Stone Circle. There's a World Heritage Site at Avebury with lots of interesting things to see. So if that's the sort of thing that takes your fancy, as well as coming to an astronomy conference, we'd like to persuade some of you to spend a little while having a holiday in the UK. So we hope to see as many of you as possible at Warwick next year. It would be very useful to get an idea, just with a quick show of hands, how many people at this point would think it's quite likely they might want to come to the UK. We have to make some arrangements for accommodation. That's why I'm asking you to put your hand up. So you put it up and hold it up, and I'll do a quick count. Okay, that's great. Wives are very welcome. I saw at least one pair of two hands up. So, yeah, wives will be very welcome. We can accommodate as many of you as want to come. There'll obviously be announcements nearer the time, and we'll try and firm up on both the content of the program and also the requesting information about people who want to come, so we can make firm bookings. But it's well underway. All of the facilities are now booked. The lecture theatres, the accommodation is block booking for the meeting. So it is happening.
And for the record, husbands are very welcome as well. So bring your spouse and make a vacation out of it. Thank you. We're really looking forward to that meeting. And I don't have any other business. So back to our president.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all in England next year. And with that, I now declare the membership meeting closed.